K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can, we're Americans.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show on K98 Talk. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening. Welcome to Wednesday. Wednesdays rock on K98talk.com. Then you got DeBunny, and then you get DeWilkins, all in a row. Wednesday nights, if they were any better, they'd be bottled and sold. Get your phones out. Get ready to give me a call. You can reach me at 408-681-8255. That's 408-681-8255. Sorry I was out last week. Technical difficulties getting crap done around the house prohibited me from having enough time to actually write a show and produce it and get it put on the air. But I'm back with you, and we're a little tardy tonight because we were hammering out some technical shit for Bunny. Yes, Sam, I'm giving you crap, but that's okay because it's all in fun. Actually, it was Mr. Producer's fault, but that's okay. It was for you. Anyway, let's get down to business, shall we? There was this Hillary's big announcement. Was anything kept secret in the world has just now been made official. The nearly Jurassic-aged Hillary Clinton has announced that she is running to be the next president of the United States. Listen, people, this geriatric banshee has been pissed off since losing the nomination to eventual presidential winner and disastrous POTUS Barack Obama, the man whom I refer to as the perpetual amateur. But what says about the Democratic Party and tens of millions of Americans is just really depressing. I mean, come on, man. Other than Barack Obama, who voted present 129 times during his 2 years in Congress, whose resume solely consisted of being a charismatic black man, I challenge anybody to show me a less accomplished and or qualified individual who has run for president in our lifetime. And sadly, that's saying a little something. I mean, at least Obama had the excuse, poor as it may be, because he did beg for the job, but he did have the excuse of having been in public life for only a few years as a state senator and then 2 years as a U.S. senator. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, has been in public life for most of her adult years, and as a very politically active and unachieving First Lady, U.S. Senator, and Secretary of State. Now, if you ask her supporters what the hell it is that she has accomplished, you'll probably be told, just like I've been told, that she was a senator and Secretary of State. And they say it with full conviction, and their hearts are really behind it. But they also say it like being appointed or elected to an office means that she actually accomplished something. Hell, or anything for that matter. So why is her candidacy so damn depressing? Well, she's free of accomplishments and full of setbacks. Most of her support is derived from her being female and potentially becoming the first woman president. Is there anything more superficial as a criterion for becoming leader of the greatest country in the world? You know, there actually was a time when most Americans voted for the president based on the belief that the person they were casting their ballot for was best for the country. Now, at least for the American left, it's primarily about being the first. The first black, the first woman, the first gay, the first Jew, the first Native American, the first transgender, the first atheist, as long as they're all Democrats, right? And once they've all had their first, it will, of course, become a priority of the left to elect the first gay, black, female, Jewish, Native American, transgendered atheist. Again, as long as this person is a Democrat. And until we do, the left will continue to label America as racist, sexist, and bigoted in general. Now, let's go back just a short period of time in history. When Joe Lieberman joined the Democratic ticket as a potential vice president, many Jews who were not really enamored with Al Gore voted for Gore because Lieberman's a Jew. Personally, I voted for George W. because I thought he would make a better president. You see, having a Jewish vice president wouldn't in any way improve life for Americans, or even more specifically for American Jews. American Jews have it great in America because it's one of the least bigoted countries on earth, and because they've worked hard. They've shown personal initiative and taken personal responsibility, and they've beaten the odds and are living the American dream. This ridiculous belief that elected leaders are good for the ethnic, gender, or racial group to which they belong is a left-wing myth. It's difficult to name almost any significant contributions that all the black mayors and congressmen, and for that matter, a black president, have made to black Americans' lives. At the same time, it's also next to impossible to name one disadvantage to Asian Americans, with maybe the exception of Leland Yee, because there are few Asian Americans in prominent political positions around this country. Nevertheless, we constantly hear from the left how important it is to have a woman president of the United States. But enough rambling. Let's get back on point. How exactly does Hillary Clinton exemplify female achievement? What the hell is it she's achieved? All the fame, being elected a U.S. Senator, and being named Secretary of State is largely, if not all, due to the man whom she married. Isn't that exactly the opposite of the message feminists are trying to convey to women around the world, and especially in the United States? Let's do a little comparison work. Let's put Hillary Clinton and Carly Fiorina up side by side. Fiorina's a woman who went from small-town girl to CEO and board chairman of Hewlett-Packard, one of the world's largest and most powerful business brokering companies. The comparison should be embarrassing for Democrats. Yet how many liberals who are preoccupied with having a woman president would vote for Carly Fiorina? Crickets. I know, crickets. And if character means a damn thing at all, I haven't begun to mention how unqualified Hillary Clinton is to be president of the United States. I've talked about this before, but the late New York Times Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist William Safire, never known for his personal invective in columns, opened his column on January 8, 1996 with this: Americans of all political persuasions are coming to the sad realization that our First Lady, he was referring to Hillary Clinton, is a congenital liar. She is in the long-time habit of lying, and she has never been called to account for lying herself or in suborning lying in her aides and friends. People, this was 1996. Has anything changed with Hillary? While First Lady, she stole furnishings from the White House valued in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then when Congress called her out on it, she classified the items as missing. And to this day, they are still classified as missing. While Secretary of State, she kept a private email account on a personally owned server because handling 2 phones and or mobile devices, which we now know she did anyway, was too cumbersome. And now that she's destroyed the data on her server, is there any doubt as to why she kept 2 phones? Nevertheless, her lack of accomplishments count for nothing in the eyes of Democrats, feminists, and other diehards on the left. She is, after all, a woman who's liberal. And after all, what else matters to these brain-dead drones who can't fathom original thinking and simply toss out insults to their political opponents like racist or sexist? I can't think of a worse candidate for president of the United States, and I would say that even if John McCain were running again. All right. So that's enough about Hillary. We also had Marco declare on Monday. A lot of people are still not sold on Marco, and I have to admit I'm not 100% sold on Marco just yet. But I do believe that Marco Rubio has learned a lot from being used during his time in the Gang of Eight, discussing immigration and their unsuccessful ideas and for policy. I believe that Marco is saying the right things and making the right moves right now. I will withhold further judgment until I see more from Marco. Right now, it's very early in his candidacy declared. So let's just give him a chance and see what he has to say. And more importantly, let's see what he does and how he votes through this next year. Okay. Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, we know what they're about. They've been around for a little while. Of course, Cruz is still new to the Senate, but still, he's been around long enough. We know what Ted Cruz is about. I don't think we have anything to worry about there. Scott Walker, where you at, brother? Waiting for you to declare. I was listening to Chris Christie on the radio this afternoon, and he says he has yet to decide, but he claims that when he does decide one way or the other, he said if he decides to run for president, that it would be because he feels that he's a better candidate than anybody else that's thrown their name into the ring. Right. Okay. Anyway, we'll let Christie go at his word. But even as he was being pressed today on the radio, he was already waffling on issues. So I wouldn't hold my breath on Christie being the man or woman. So, moving on, away from candidates, more or less. During a discussion I had a few weeks ago regarding the Iran nuclear talks, I was completely unimpressed when one of the leftist participants in this discussion asserted that my opposition and all Republican opposition to the Obama administration's nuclear diplomacy with Iran was based on racism because the president is a black man. And I quickly informed this genius that the president was as white as I am, even though we don't look like it. The fact remains that it's the truth. And, that's just it's what I've come to expect from the left. And this ridiculous argument made absolutely no sense given the growing bipartisan concerns that the U.S. has conceded far too much to get a weak nuclear agreement with Iran. But anyway, I had almost forgotten this obligatory charge of racism until I saw it again in a New York Times editorial titled, "A New Phase in Anti-Obama Attacks." In it, the Times contended that Republican attacks on President Obama's Iran policy are somehow based on subtle racism. The same racism that motivated what it claimed were prior attacks questioning whether Mr. Obama was an American citizen or suggesting that he was a secret Muslim. The editorial levied other far-fetched criticisms of President's Republican critics, claiming that the open letter by 47 Republican senators to the leadership of Iran was, quote, the most outrageous example, end quote, of these racist attacks on Obama's leadership and amounted to an effort to deny a Democratic president a policy victory. As for the Democrats, well, they can't beat this dead horse enough. You know how the left loves to call us racist. I've seen it from all of them. The left-leaning news media outlets, the social justice warriors, all over the last month, dumping on Republicans during these Iran nuclear talks. The Times editorial writers tried to support their farcical charges by claiming there is no functional difference between the letter sent by the 47 GOP senators than if a group of Democrat senators had written to the Kremlin in 1986 to block President Reagan's nuclear talks with Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev. Now, let's just stop right here for a minute, because there would be a huge difference if they wrote to block Reagan's nuclear talks with Gorbachev, because these 47 GOP senators did not try to block anything. They simply explained how our Constitution and checks and balances system works to the Iranian leaders. Anybody got anything different to say about that? You can find me on Twitter. You know where I'm at. Personally, I take umbrage to the Times editorial. My criticism of the Obama administration's nuclear diplomacy with Iran has been completely based on excessive concessions made by U.S. negotiators that I believe will lead to a weak and dangerous agreement, especially where Israel is concerned, and then right after them, the rest of our European allies. This editorial was an act of desperation driven by a publication that is now a known bastion for liberalism instead of its original mission, which was actually journalism. I know it's hard to believe that somebody started a newspaper because they wanted to be a journalist. But now this is nothing more than a political mouthpiece that's in print. President Obama's nuclear diplomacy with Iran is not collapsing because of racism. It's collapsing because his so-called diplomacy is a damn disaster that created the nuclear underpinnings, an outline, if you will, for a final nuclear agreement with Iran that is clearly weak, ill-fraught, and fraudulent. The purpose of this deal appears to be to convince Democrat members of Congress, especially in the Senate, to not vote for legislation to give Congress a say-so on an Iran nuclear agreement, or to impose new sanctions on Iran. Unfortunately for the Obama administration, the Iranian government is not willing to play along with their shenanigans. Thanks to Iranian officials, we know that Iran never agreed to most of the strong provisions that were touted by the Obama officials last week. Top Iranian officials are claiming the administration lied in a fact sheet it issued on the framework. Additionally, the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei stated last week that sanctions against Iran must be completely terminated when an agreement is signed, not lifted in phases based on Iranian compliance, as the Obama officials have claimed. Khamenei also said Iranian military facilities will be off limits, that's off limits, to UN inspectors. The administration's nuclear diplomacy with Iran is in deep trouble. The New York Times and other left-wing Obama supporters are prepared to do whatever is necessary to defend this initiative. Given the Iranian leadership's rejection of the Obama version of the framework agreement and growing bipartisan opposition to President Obama's Iran policy, I am confident that the American people are too smart to fall for these ridiculous claims. Samuel Johnson once said, "Patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel." But reckless and ignorant claims of racism by the left, especially in cases like this, where race plays no role whatsoever, may merit an update to that old adage. And folks, I know we started a little late on this night, but I'm going to go ahead and take a break for a commercial here, and it's a great place for me to do so. So, Mr. Producer, I know you told me to go commercial free, but I'm going to dump it right back to you. We're going to get this thing lit up, and when we come back, we're going to press on with some immigration, customs, some defense, and some government waste. So stay tuned, or if you're not tuned, get your ass tuned in. We'll be right back on the Conservative Curmudgeon Show.
Oh, but ain't that America?
We're gonna spread happiness. We're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead 'em.
So let me be clear. You didn't build that.
Everything he's done is clean as a whistle. He's never not only broken any law, he's never done anything wrong. He's the perfect father, the perfect husband, the perfect American.
Hey y'all, this is Sam Janney, or the Bunny as many of you know me by, your friendly neighborhood bad girl of conservatism. Here to talk to you about my show. I'll talk about conservative issues, my top 10 douchebags of the week, and have some pretty badass conservative guests on the show. All that, plus me, your resident bunny with a chainsaw.
Wednesday nights will never be the same. It's Unapologetically Bunny. Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on K98 Talk.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve. As they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve to live full and independent lives, even when there's no government funding or a nursing home seems like the only option. We won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Join us at findwwp.org.
Oh, but ain't that America? For you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
Welcome back. Get your phones out. The number is 408-681-855. Now, one of the things going on before Congress took their spring break was that they called for a hearing for Immigrations and Customs. They wanted to talk to the director, Sarah Saldana. And she told members of the House Judiciary Committee that ICE agents who do not enforce President Barack Obama's executive orders on immigration priorities could be fired for not following an agency directive. Now, during this hearing, Trent Franks, a Republican from Arizona, referred to Obama's statement during a town hall event in February, during which the president said there would be, quote, consequences for ICE agents who enforce federal immigration laws outside of his mandated enforcement priorities. Representative Franks then asked Saldana what those consequences might be. The president also said, and I know this question was proffered earlier, if somebody's working for ICE and they don't follow this policy, there's going to be consequences, Franks explained. Have you enforced that? I mean, are there any consequences for not following that policy? Now, the answer came from Saldana. She said there are consequences for not following the rule of the employee's status with the agency. I have a whole manual on that, she said before she was cut off. So Franks came back with what would the consequences be if someone in the position that required them to follow through with the president's directives, and again, let's set the constitutional issue aside for the moment. If the president's done that, then I guess we can do that. Frank's getting a little sassy there. What would be the consequences for doing that? Franks pressed. So Saldana replies, well, whether it's that directive or assaulting an employee in the office or not abiding by some other rule or policy, the range of punishment can range from anything to a verbal meeting where you counsel that person to ultimately what's available to any employer, and that's termination. So Franks asked, in other words, there are employees that work with you that are subject or potentially subjected to termination for performing duties outside of the president's priorities on this directive in particular. And Saldana replied with, for not following any policy or directive or rule of employment, which includes the president's directive. All right, I understand, Franks concluded. Saldana did not argue. Speaking at an immigration town hall event at Florida International University on February 25th, I love how he chooses these places. Obama defended his unilateral immigration policies that focus on felons, not families. Obama said, we're now implementing a new prioritization. He said there are going to be some jurisdictions and there may be individual ICE officials or Border Patrol who aren't paying attention to our new directives, but they're going to be answerable to the head of the Department of Homeland Security because he's been very clear about what our priorities should be. And I have been very clear about what our priorities should be. Okay, let's stop right there. So Johnson has been clear about his priorities on immigration, and Obama has been clear about his priorities on immigration. But let me tell you something. If these two jackasses shaved their heads and jammed them together to make one giant ass of themselves, they wouldn't know jack shit about the Constitution or what's legal versus what their opinion is, and worse off, what our priorities should be. The bottom line is is that if somebody is working for ICE and there's a policy that the president wants followed and they don't follow it, there are going to be consequences. These are the words right out of his mouth. Saldana also explained in the hearing that all ICE agents are required to carry cards. Now, these are great. I haven't seen one personally yet, but I'm going to read you some of the stuff that's on these cards. These cards lay out ICE's immigration enforcement priorities, which group illegal aliens deemed eligible for deportation into 3 ranking categories. Priority 1 includes aliens who threaten national security, border security, and public safety. Priority 2 includes aliens convicted of 3 or more misdemeanor offenses or a significant misdemeanor, as well as recent border jumpers. And priority 3 involves aliens who have been issued a final order of removal on or after January 1st, 2014. Saldana said, "We have actually put out real substantial training on this." How much real substantial training do you need for 3 little steps that fit on a card that goes in your pocket that you have to carry and be able to present to your supervisor on demand like you're a goddamn 3rd grader walking around in a parochial school getting demerits for stepping out of line? Saldana held up the card and claims that she carries one herself at all times, and every officer uses one of these cards, which clearly outlines these priorities. Makes me sick just thinking about it. Again, trying to make an effort to clarify for law enforcement where our priorities should be, Saldana said she has directed her staff to raise any questions about the Obama administration's immigration priorities up the chain of command. Folks, they might as well be raising those questions like a smoke signal going out of somebody's butt, because they're going to disappear as quick as they ask them, and those people asking them are going to have their names put on a short list to find excuses to dismiss so they can hire in people that are unqualified, that are willing to blindly follow unconstitutional orders from an unconstitutional president and an unconstitutional cabinet member and an unconstitutional director over this agency who is screwing up America by allowing illegal immigration to continue like a busted water flow out of a pipe. Damn it, this pisses me off, people. If you can't get mad about illegal immigration, I don't know what the hell you could ever get mad about. All right, moving on. The federal government taxed away more money and spent more money and ran a bigger deficit in the first half of fiscal year 2015 than it did in the first half of fiscal year 2014. This is according to the Congressional Budget Office. The federal government ran a budget deficit, of $430 billion for the first half of fiscal year 2015. The CBO estimates, well, $17 billion more than the shortfall recorded in the same span last year. The CBO said in its monthly budget review for March 2015, which was published April 8th, both revenues and outlays were about 7% higher than the amounts recorded in the first 6 months of fiscal year 2014. The fiscal year begins on October 1st and ends September 30th. Now we're going to do a little bit of comparison. So these numbers are big, but they're important. so please pay attention. In the first 6 months of fiscal year 2014, the government took in approximately $1.32 trillion in revenue. And this is all according to the CBO. In the first 6 months of this fiscal year, it took in approximately $1.42 trillion, an increase of $98 billion. Is that right? Billion? That's hundreds, that's 100,000s, that's million. Yeah, billion. $98 billion more. Meanwhile, the federal government spent approximately $1.736 trillion in the first 6 months of 2014. It spent approximately $1.851 trillion in the first 6 months of the fiscal year this year, an increase of $115 billion. So we're already talking about a $17 billion difference over last year's same pace. Last year, the government ran a deficit of $413 billion in the first half of the fiscal year. This year, it ran a deficit of $430 billion, a $17 billion increase over last year. The biggest source of additional tax revenue for the federal government was the individual income tax. In the first 6 months of fiscal year 2014, Americans paid the federal government approximately $585 billion in individual income taxes. In the first 6 months of 2015, Americans paid $642 billion in individual income taxes, an increase of $57 billion, or nearly 10% from fiscal year 2014. Corporate income tax payments also had a higher percentage increase than individual income tax payments, but did not yield as much an increase in actual revenue as the individual income tax. In the first 6 months of fiscal year 2014, businesses paid the federal government approximately $118 billion in corporate income taxes. In the first 6 months of 2015, they paid $133 billion. Trillion. Is that billion? Billion in corporate income taxes. That's a 12.8% increase from 2014, but only an additional $15 billion in government revenue. Only. Payroll tax payments increased only 3.7%, but brought the federal government $18 billion in additional revenues, rising from $490 billion to $509 billion from 14 to 15. Overall, tax revenues increased 7.4% from the first half of 2014 to the first half of 2015, with total receipts rising from $1.323 to $1.420 trillion. Despite this windfall in additional tax revenue, Obama's federal government ran a bigger deficit in the first half of this fiscal year because federal spending increased even more than federal tax revenues. Federal tax outlays climbed from $1.736 trillion in fiscal year 2014 to $1.85 trillion in the first half of 2015. The $115 billion increase in federal spending outpaced the $98 billion increase in federal taxation to result in a $17 billion higher deficit. Now, let's take some peeks here real quick. Outlays for Medicaid rose by $31 billion largely because most of the provisions of the Affordable Care Act that led to increased enrollment in Medicaid went into effect in January 2014, and therefore did not affect the program's spending in the first few months of fiscal year 2014, which began in October of 2013. Medicare spending up $23 billion or 9%, and Social Security spending up $19 billion or 4% also saw large increases. People, our damn federal government is out of control. They are spending your money and my money to do the most ridiculous and in some cases unconstitutional things. When will you have had enough? When are there going to be 1 million people marching on the White House with torches and pitchforks and whatever the hell else we can carry up there that's not illegal? This has to stop. Our country cannot sustain itself with deficit spending under Obama. Hillary will continue deficit spending. Jeb will continue deficit spending. Bernie Sanders, should he oust Hillary, will continue with deficit spending. Chris Christie will continue deficit spending. These people have proven track records, with the exception of Hillary, who has no track record at all because she's never accomplished a damn thing other than having a seat in office somewhere. They've all been deficit spenders. We need true conservatism in 2016. We need somebody that's willing to slash. We need a fair tax. Yeah, I said fair tax. You heard it. Look it up if you don't know what fair tax is. Now, we're going to go on to some more government crap spending, wasteful spending, misuse of your funds and my funds. The United States Labor Department, through its Bureau of International Labor Affairs. Now, we got to stop right there for a second. Why the hell does a department that's designed to help laborers in the United States need a Bureau of International Labor Affairs? I don't get this. But anyway, they have announced that they're going to award $13 million in grants to promote employment. I know this sounds like a good thing, right? But you might have missed the key word up in that previous sentence, and it was international. So they're going to spend $13 million to promote employment among at-risk youths in El Salvador and Honduras. Yeah, you heard it right. They're going to go spend money that should be spent putting people in the United States back to work, putting teenagers to work, and getting them trained in Central America. This project will target youths aged 14 to 17 that are susceptible to the worst forms of child labor, as well as youths ages 18 to 20 that are susceptible to hazardous and exploitive working conditions, primarily targeting youth that reside in communities with high levels of crime and violence. The grant announcement stated, wow. El Salvador and Honduras are among the most violent countries in the world. Honduras has a homicide rate of 79 per 100,000 inhabitants. And El Salvador has a homicide rate of 41.2 per 100,000 each year. This is according to the Labor Department, the United States Labor Department. So why is our Labor Department, who should be, why are they concerned in tracking the murder rates in Central America? they're killing me. They're absolutely killing me. I'm never going to understand why. But anyhow, over 64% of Hondurans and over 34% of El Salvadorans live in poverty. They're trying to make this a bleeding heart case so that you don't mind your tax dollars being used this way. In Honduras, the net enrollment rate for 7th through 9th grade is 48.7% and 25.1% for grades 10 and 11. In El Salvador, there's a 37.6% net enrollment rate for grades 9 through 11. In Honduras, more than 50% of all unemployed workers are under age 24. And in El Salvador, that number is approximately 41%. Now, this is statistic twisting, folks. This is our government at its best. Go back to these stats. More than 50% of all unemployed workers are under age 24. They do not have a minimum age to which they are going to, so they are counting everybody from birth to age 24 in this number. Get it? Yeah, I knew you would. The Obama administration has made it clear, whether he's right, which he's not, or wrong, which he is, that a secure and stable Central America is in the interest of the United States. Creating real economic opportunity for that region's most vulnerable youth is critical to achieving that goal. Damn the idea that creating opportunities for the 10 million people that are out of the labor force in the United States be a priority. Damn the idea that creating opportunities for workers here in the U.S. might also open some doors for Americans. But Obama's Labor Department is prepared to do its part to help anybody but Americans. Labor Secretary Thomas Perez said at-risk youth at home and abroad share the same struggles. They work hard to overcome poverty and escape gang violence, but the deck is stacked against them without access to a good education and good jobs. Sound familiar? Huh? This guy's harfing. Remember when Marie Harf said all ISIS needed was jobs and everything would be fine? This guy's harfing. He says this project will help give a lifeline to youth in El Salvador and Honduras by providing the valuable job-driven training and employment resources that they need. Training services will be provided to youth in a safe learning environment, in some cases through residential training facilities. So my question is, when the hell did it become our responsibility to start taking care of other countries' jobless problems when we have more people out of the labor force than at any point in our country's history? In Honduras, for the most at-risk youth who cannot continue to live in or return to their communities because of danger to themselves or their families, the United States Department of Labor requires applicants to propose a residential service center where the youths will live for the duration of their training. According to the Labor Department, grant applicants are expected to provide at-risk youth with skills and education directly related to labor market needs in a safe learning environment. They must ensure that training sites are free from threats or violence, and that youth that take part in job training are not engaged in the worst forms of child labor or hazardous or exploitive work. Now, how in the hell are they going to do this? Basically, what we're talking about here is creating a compound to move young people into, and then surrounding it with enough security guards to keep drug cartels and gangs at bay, and on the inside have this happy-go-lucky utopian wet dream of training and learning job skills. Why the hell isn't this happening in America? Where the hell is Obama and Perez when it comes to out-of-work Americans? 10 million people out of the labor force, and all he can do is scream about how our economy is booming. What an imbecile. Now, this program is also supposed to provide follow-up services to help young people secure and retain employment. It must create partnerships with employers to promote youth employment and strengthen the capacity of the government and community organizations to support relevant vocational training and employment opportunities for young people, right? Because there's so many businesses in Central America that want to pay people more money to work for them, right? Because nobody in Central America is greedy. They don't want profit margins. They want people to get all the training they can get so that they can earn higher wages at their companies and cut into their profit margin. The hell? This program is expected to enroll, you're going to love this, quote unquote, returned migrant youth into vocational training programs through project-established referral mechanisms. Now listen to that, okay? Returned migrant youth. Here's the problem. Customs and Border Patrol aren't allowed to return anybody, damn it, because their boss is in D.C. testifying that President Obama has said that his priorities won't be ignored or they'll be fired. So how the hell are we returning anybody if we're not allowed to arrest anybody and send them back? This is 13 million taxpayer dollars that you might as well be wiping your butt with and flushing down the toilet. Pisses me off to no end. All right. We're at a stopping point again, so we're about to take another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue with some health insurance woes for the Obama administration. We're going to talk about some of the negative effects of Obamacare. And we'll also get you geared up. We'll be in the second hour of my show, gearing towards the start of Bunny's show in just 1 hour. So stay tuned to K98talk.com.
Oh, but ain't that America for you and me? Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
Hey everybody, this is Jason, host of According to Me. I'd like to invite you to check out my show. It's a 2-hour show that lasts 60 minutes in... listen, I hate to interrupt, but one thing I can do is read off a script. Just say, let me be clear a lot. It works. President Obama, I can handle this. It's a radio promo. I'm not green. I've done this before. Did someone say green? Now, Al Gore is here. Listen, I'm just trying to record a radio promo. Do you mind? Now, do you say good things about me on the show? No, not at all. But if it makes you feel any better, I rip on Republicans just as much. The AM radio frequencies give off very high levels of radiation. Look, my show is on the internet, which you invented. Can I just do my promo? I got a pen. I can veto that, you know. I know you got a pen. It's not a law. It's a radio promo. Listen, just listen to my show. Barack Obama and Al Gore hate it, so you're going to love it. Here's an executive order. Don't listen to his show. He doesn't like me. He's racist. And he doesn't recycle either. That's it. I'm done. It's According to Me, Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on K98 Talk.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rail. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
Okay.
Oh, but ain't that America? For you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Glad to be with you this Wednesday night. We are gearing up for the second hour here, and I'm going to take you right up to the start of Bunny's show, Unapologetically Bunny, coming up next on K98Talk.com, followed by According to Me with Jason DeWilkins. That's right, on Wednesday nights, you get Doug Grouch, Dub Bunny, and Doe Wilkins back to back to back. So anyway, as I was teasing before the break, we have some things to discuss with the Affordable Care Act. So nearly 12% of American adults still do not have health insurance. This is despite the fact that the individual mandate in President Obama's Affordable Care Act took effect at the beginning of 2014. We're now almost halfway through 2015, and 12% are still uninsured. That was down 1 percentage point from the previous quarter and 5.2 percentage points since the end of 2013. However, just before the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate went into effect, these numbers also count, you guessed it, Medicare, Medicaid. So the number's actually higher than that. But, you know, they like to fudge it. So this Gallup poll shows that the ACA is falling far short of the president's statement that the law would be, quote unquote, about making sure that all of us and all our fellow citizens can count on the security of health care. Everybody remembers the bullshit this guy spews. This was a speech in the Rose Garden. April 1st, 2014, 6 months after the federal government initiated its rollout of the health insurance marketplace disaster. Obama told the American people that this day should remind us that the goal we set for ourselves, that no American should go without the health care they need, that no family should be bankrupt because somebody in that family gets sick, because no parent should have to be worried about whether they can afford treatment because they're worried that they don't want to have to burden their children. The idea that everybody in this country can get decent health care, that goal is achievable. Bullshit. Pardon me. This is supposedly what the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is all about. Making sure that all of us and our fellow citizens can count on the security of health care when we get sick. You know, Obama also said that if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. The percentage of Americans without health insurance is the lowest it's been since Gallup first began conducting this poll in 2008. But it still leaves 12% uninsured. Now, are these 12% the smart? I think so. I think they're the smart ones, not the dumb ones. Obama thinks they're dumb. But let me tell you something about Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. when you enroll in the Affordable Care Act, if you don't like it after your first year, you can't leave. The government has the right to simply re-enroll you if you don't do it yourself. And they'll pick your plan, and they'll pick your deductible, and they'll pick your premium, and they'll pick your doctor. They'll pick everything but your nose. Now, the provision requiring most Americans to carry health insurance took effect at the beginning of 2014. Coincidentally, the same time the government began forcing people to buy health insurance or else pay a fine, a tax, a fine, whatever the hell. The number of uninsured has dropped from the third quarter of 2013. But as for the Gallup poll, it interviewed 43,575 adults. And they say that their margin of error is plus or minus 1% with a 95% confidence level. Now, what I want to know is what the hell kind of plan still screws over so many people and gets called a success? Obama knows that a large number of the people that are enrolled in the ACA are there because their plans were canceled because of his atrocious legislation that I still contend is unconstitutional. But he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the Constitution. It's an old, outdated document that needs rewriting, according to him. In the meantime, is the idea of everybody having health care a bad idea? No, it's not a bad idea. What's a bad idea is forcing everybody under penalty of law to have health care. And if you're willing to pay, like apparently 12% of Americans are, what the hell's next, Obama? What are you going to do? You going to throw them in jail? I just don't get it. I don't get a lot about this administration, but I guess that's because I just don't get stupid. Okay. Now, we got to press on. We got things to do. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday cleared the way for delivery of sophisticated air defense systems to Iran with a decree that U.S. officials warn could disrupt the quote-unquote emerging deal to prevent Tehran from developing nuclear weapons. Kremlin officials cited the April 2 framework agreement between Iran and 6 world powers that is expected to prevent Tehran from developing nuclear weapons as grounds for proceeding with delivery of the S-300 missile systems, which could give Russia a jump on others in resuming trade with the long-isolated Islamic Republic. Now, you're going to love this. The announcement drew immediate criticism from the United States, where State Department spokeswoman Marie Harf said recent destabilizing actions on the part of Iran in Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon suggest this isn't the time to be selling these kinds of systems to them. But apparently it's the time to be letting them keep their centrifuges and their nuclear research facilities and their uranium, and to keep enriching it and to develop a nuclear bomb. Dumb bitch. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov insisted that a modern air defense system is now very relevant to Iran, especially taking into the account the severe escalation of tensions in neighboring areas. Of special note, he told the Russia Today television network that the rapid deployment of military activity in Yemen in recent weeks He added the S-300 is exclusively a defensive weapon which can't serve offensive purposes and will not jeopardize the security of any country, including, of course, Israel. Forgive me if I say bullshit again. Russia said its main objective was to demonstrate concrete progress after the deal on limiting Iran's nuclear program. The quote-unquote tentative pact, officials said, relieves Moscow of its 5-year-old commitment to hold back delivery of the S-300 missile systems Iran agreed to buy in 2007. It was done in the spirit of goodwill in order to encourage progress in talks, said Lavrov. We're convinced that at this stage there is no longer need for such an embargo, specifically for a separate voluntary Russian embargo. It was unclear whether Moscow was prepared to ship the missile systems anytime soon or what specific anti-aircraft batteries might be involved. The S-300 has been out of production for 5 years, and the Russian output until 2010 involved an array of ranges and capabilities, analysts said, leaving it unclear whether Tehran could deter the kind of airstrikes that Israel has threatened if the nuclear deal falters and weapons production is suspected. Still, a senior Israeli official condemned the Russian announcement. And they said, quote, this is a direct result of the legitimacy that Iran is obtaining from the deal being woven with it. And it is proof that the economic momentum in Iran that will come after the lifting of the sanctions will be exploited for arming and not for the welfare of the Iranian people. That comment is from Intelligence Minister Yuval Steinitz in Israel. Tehran's order for the S-300s was held up by then President Dmitry Medvedev in 2010, in line with the UN Security Council Resolution 1929, which banned supply to Iran of conventional weapons, including missiles, tanks, attack helicopters, warplanes, and ships. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Putin's decree, which took immediate effect with his signature, ended Moscow's self-imposed restrictions on transport of the S-300 system, worth a total of $800 million. By offering to resume arms to Iran, Putin has potentially positioned Russia for a head start over other nations in restoring trade links with Tehran. A deputy foreign minister recently told Russian lawmakers that an oil for goods barter deal with Iran was also in the works as a result of the perceived easing of the nuclear standoff between Iran and the West. But the Kremlin overture also has the potential to ease the pressure on Iran as negotiations enter the final stretch. While President Obama is facing the challenge of selling a permanent agreement to the reluctant Republican-controlled Congress and his own Democrat caucus, if a final deal is achieved. House Press Secretary and resident buffoon Josh Earnest said the United States has previously made known our objections to that sale of S-300s. Secretary of State John Kerry raised those concerns again to Lavrov in a phone call Monday. It's safe to say that Russia understands that the United States takes very seriously the safety and security of our allies in the region, said Ernest. Much of the international community has welcomed the nuclear framework. I can't see how, since it's full of lies, as an opening for a path for peaceful resolution of the decade-old debate about whether Iran is clandestinely pursuing nuclear weapons capabilities. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned the pact and threatened unilateral action against Iran if he suspects Tehran of breaching the agreement. Those actions could include airstrikes. Israeli officials have said that some analysts saw the S-300 announcement as an attempt to pressure Western states to accept Tehran's terms for a permanent nuclear deal by a June 30th deadline. So basically, you've got Russia helping to leverage Iran, who is just basically roto-rootering Obama's team over there negotiating. We've got definite some concessions that we need that we're not getting, and Obama's team is lying about getting them, according to Iran. Now, this is a message from Putin that deals, with this whole deal, and the West is going to have to be more flexible than it has been. And this is, this is a risk assessment consulting firm, Eurasia Group, saying this, that we have to be more flexible, and that it's a deal from Putin that's within reach. Russia has consistently cooperated with the Obama administration and negotiators for the other world powers, Britain, France, China, and Germany, in urging Iran to accept a deal that would ease sanctions in exchange for curbs on nuclear development. Moscow is now eager to resume its traditionally robust trade with Iran and doesn't want the agreement reached in Lausanne to unravel because of what it considers excessive Western demands. Excessive Western demands. Yeah, we're making demands, but we're not getting anything. So what the hell are they really worried about? Russia and Iran have enacted on an oil for goods deal on a very significant scale, Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabov told the Russian upper house of parliament, the Federation Council, in a briefing after the Lausanne agreement. Under that arrangement, Russia would buy 500,000 barrels of Iranian crude per day in exchange for deliveries of grain and manufactured goods. Getting better here. Russia can't sell its own oil. They are sitting on stockpiles of oil. So why the hell would they buy 500,000 barrels of Iranian crude every day? Israeli defense analyst Ron Ben Yishai wrote on the Ynet website that the significance of any S-300 delivery for Iran's air defense was unclear because it wasn't known which version of the system Iran would receive or the effective range of the ballistic missiles, rockets, cruise missiles, and air munitions it could launch. Also, he said, Israeli and U.S. Air Force officials have studied the S-300 systems deployed in Cyprus and elsewhere, presumably giving them time to develop disruption and decoy capabilities to confront it. Delivery of any S-300 system to Tehran is not expected to restrict a strike on Iran. So says Yishai. Now, let's go back and let's talk about Russia, because their economy is collapsing right now because they can't sell their oil. What is the motivation for buying 500,000 additional barrels a day in addition to what they already can't move out of their country? And what are they thinking? There's something wrong here. And somebody a little smarter than me needs to figure out what it is and do something about it. I had a story queued here, but I think I'm going to hold off on it for a little while because it's quite lengthy. Quite lengthy indeed, but it may be the crux of what we're doing here. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Damn the consequences. It's a long story. It'll probably occupy the rest of my airtime. But we can do this. So, we're going to press on from Russia and Iran, and we're going to talk about the idiots that are the leaders of the United States Missile Defense Agency. They are, or they were, effusive about some new technology. It was the most powerful radar of its kind in the world, they told Congress. So powerful that it could detect a baseball over San Francisco from the other side of the country. If North Korea launched a sneak attack, the sea-based X-band radar, or SBX, would spot the incoming missiles, track them through space, and guide U.S. rocket interceptors to destroy them. Crucially, this system would be able to distinguish between actual missiles and decoys. SBX represents a capability that is unmatched, said the director of the Missile Defense Agency to a Senate subcommittee back in 2007. In reality, the giant floating radar has been a $2.2 billion flop. Although it can powerfully magnify distant objects, its field of vision is so narrow that it would be of little use against what experts consider the likeliest attack, a stream of missiles interspersed with decoys. SBX was supposed to be operational by 2005. Instead, it spends most of the year mothballed at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Another concept, the airborne laser, which was going to basically be a fleet of Boeing 747s, each modified to fire an infrared chemical laser through a 5-foot-long telescope in its nose. The laser would incinerate enemy missiles shortly after their launch, before they could release decoys that might fool U.S. radar. Now, the major contractors on this deal are Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and Lockheed Martin. The early optimism in this program back in 2006, they were General Henry Obering, then the director of the U.S. Missile Defense Agency, said, "We're building forces of good to defeat the force of evil. And in that vein, today we are taking a major step to give the American people their first lightsaber." Okay, here's the problem. Because of the laser's limited range, each of the 747s would have had to fly near or within an adversary's borders, leaving it vulnerable to anti-aircraft missiles. To operate at a safe distance, the laser would have to have been 20 to 30 times more powerful, and the laser's potassium hydroxide and hydrogen peroxide fuel posed severe safety risks to the crew. So this project was killed in 2012 by then Defense Secretary Robert Gates. He said, "I don't know anybody at the Department of Defense who thinks that this program should or would ever be operationally deployed." So that was May 20th of 2009. Stayed live for 3 more years until they killed it in 2012 with a cost of $5.3 billion. $5.3 billion they wasted on this, just the lasers. Now, here's another project that the Missile Defense Agency tried. It's called the Kinetic Energy Interceptor. This was to be the fastest U.S. rocket interceptor to be fired from land or Navy ships at enemy missiles during their early boost phase. Major contractors on this deal were Northrop Grumman again and Raytheon. Henry Obering described this project, that high acceleration with the mobile capability of kinetic energy interceptor, is very, very attractive. Apparently it was only worth 2 varies and not a third. The problems, with this project. Extending 40 feet, the kinetic energy interceptor would have been longer than anything ever launched from a modern Navy ship. To carry it, Navy vessels would have had to be retrofitted at a cost of billions of dollars, and the interceptor's range was too limited to allow it to be land-based. It would have to have been positioned so close to its target that it would be vulnerable to attack. So then we get some disappointment on this project. No matter how successful tests might one day have been, the system would have had negligible utility, according to the National Academy of Sciences. So this project was killed in 2009 and cost you and I $1.7 billion. Keep totals here, or I'll run the tab. Next up, the multiple kill vehicle. A bandolier of 8 to 20 miniature interceptors that would destroy missiles and decoys. Again, the contractors, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. The multiple kill vehicle was supposed to be a transformational program adding volume kill capability to the ballistic missile defense system as early as 2013. So said U.S. Missile Defense Agency back in July of 2006. Then we get into some problems here with this. The technical challenge of creating and launching tiny kill vehicles that could find and destroy far heavier warheads in space provided insurmountable. Among other obstacles, existing ground-based rockets would have had to be retrofitted or replaced. The concept never reached the stage where a test flight could even be conducted. Okay, so this project was shelved in 2009, 3 years after it started, without even a test flight, and cost you and I $700 million. Your stomach turning yet? Here's some more details about the SBX, the sea-based X-band radar. I told you this was going to be a powerful radar system that would be able to detect and track long-range missiles and distinguish warheads from decoys. This is the baby of Boeing and Raytheon. Notice it's the same names over and over and over. Obering's comments, blah, 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 most powerful radar of its kind in the world, will provide highly advanced detection and discrimination capabilities. The problem, the field of vision too narrow that it could not reliably track a sequence of incoming missiles. Its sensitive instrumentation is prone to corrosion at sea, and it needs millions of dollars in fuel to operate for even short periods of time. Now, a Missile Defense Agency radar specialist, David Barton, said just how this was going to fit into the missile defense system. I don't think anybody paid much attention to that. SBX was designed for a mission other than that required. So this project status was downgraded to limited test support status. It sat idle in Pearl Harbor for more than 8 months in 2013 and still sits there now, a shelved project at the cost of $2.2 billion. The project not only wasted taxpayer money, but left a hole in our nation's defenses. The money that was spent, $10 billion, could have gone towards land-based radars with greater capability to track long-range missiles, according to experts who have studied this issue. Expensive missteps have become a trademark of the Missile Defense Agency, an arm of the Pentagon charged with protecting U.S. troops and ships and the American homeland. Now, in defense of the Missile Defense Agency, they're not a complete disaster. These are the same people that came up with the missile or the Patriot missile program, something I have seen operate in person and know how effective they really are. But this is atrocious waste. Over the last decade, this agency has sunk $10 billion into the SBX and the 3 other programs, that had to be killed or sidelined after they proved unworkable. You can spend an awful lot of money and end up with nothing, said Mike Corbett, a retired Air Force colonel who oversaw the agency's contracting for weapons systems from 2006 to 2009. Missile Defense Agency spent billions and billions on these programs that didn't lead anywhere. Well, no shit, Colonel Corbett. The 4 ill-fated programs were all intended to address a key vulnerability in U.S. defenses. If an enemy launched decoys along with real missiles, U.S. radars could be fooled, causing rocket interceptors to be fired at the wrong objects, and increasing the risk that actual warheads would slip through. The airborne laser, envisioned as a fleet of converted Boeing 747s that would fire these laser beams, it turned out that the lasers couldn't be fired just like they thought. They didn't have the range. They couldn't do it. They'd have to get so close. A waste of $5.3 billion. What's $5.3 billion, right, people? I mean, shit, who cares? The Kinetic Energy Interceptor, a 6-year program that was killed. That led to nothing. $1.7 billion. Multiple kill vehicles, 3-year program, shelved. $700 million without even a test flight. Airborne laser, envisioned as a fleet of converted blah, blah, blah. I think I just copied that again. Let me press on here. These inexpensive flops stem in part from a climate of anxiety after September 11, 2001, heightened by warnings from defense hawks that North Korea and Iran were close to developing long-range missiles capable of reaching the United States. In 2002, President Bush ordered an urgent effort to field a homeland missile defense system within 2 years. In their rush to make that deadline, the Missile Defense Agency officials latched onto exotic, unproven concepts without doing a rigorous analysis of their cost and feasibility. Members of Congress whose states and districts benefited from these spending, the tenacious spending, defended the programs even after their deficiencies became evident. These conclusions emerged from a review of thousands of pages of expert reports, congressional testimony, and other government records, along with interviews with dozens of aerospace and military affairs specialists. The management of the organization is one of the technologists in their hobby shop. What the hell does that mean? The management of the organization is one of the technologists in their hobby shop, said David Montag, a former president of Missile Systems for Lockheed. Okay, that makes a little more sense now. Just read a little further. You got it, G. And he was also the co-chairman of the National Academy of Sciences, the group that was sponsored to review the Missile Defense Agency. So wait a minute. We've got a guy that works for Lockheed Martin who has a contract with the Missile Defense Agency, who is a member of the National Academy of Sciences, who the Missile Defense Agency hired to review the agency. This sounds like some Obama shit going on. They don't know the nitty-gritty of what it takes to make something work. He said this leads to programs that defy the limits of physics and economic logic. Montag said that the SBX radar should have never been built. Retired Air Force General Eugene Habiger, former head of the U.S. Strategic Command and a member of the National Academy panel, said the agency's blunders reflected a failure to analyze alternatives or seek independent cost estimates. Habiger also said they are totally off in La La Land. That was a quote, La La Land. Senior officials who promoted the 4 programs defend their actions as having helped to create a new missile defense architecture. Regarding SBX, they say it was much less expensive than a network of land-based radars and could be put in place more rapidly. Pardon me. General Obering, the retired director of the Missile Defense Agency, said any unfulfilled expectations for the SBX or the other projects were the fault of the Obama administration and Congress for not doubling down with more spending. That's a pretty bold statement. I know that Obama likes to spend, just not on defense, so I do get where he's coming from, but that's one buck I'd rather see stick where it's supposed to stick. If we can't stop one missile from destroying one American city, said Obering, a former Air Force Lieutenant General, we have justified, or if we can stop, we have justified the entire program many times over from its initiation in terms of cost. So the agency's current director, Vice Admiral James Searing, declined to be interviewed. In a written response to questions, the agency defunded its investment in the four troubled programs and asserted that the nation's missile defense system was, quote, reliable. We are very confident in our ability. We will continue to conduct extensive research, development, and testing of new technologies to ensure we keep pace with that threat. What threat? They said that the SBX was an excellent investment. Boeing, the agency's prime contractor for Homeland Defense, designed the SBX. Raytheon built the system's radar components. Both companies are among the world's biggest defense contractors and are major political donors. A Boeing spokesman said the SBX has sufficient capability to execute its role with speed, precision, and accuracy, whereas representatives from Raytheon refused to be interviewed. The Missile Defense Agency came into existence during the Reagan administration, has 8,800 employees and a budget of about $8 billion a year. The agency oversees several missile defense systems. Aegis defends Navy ships. The Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System safeguards troops in the field. A third component is the Ground-Based Midcourse Defense System, or GMD, designed to protect the U.S. homeland from long-range missiles. All four of the troubled programs were examined by the Los Angeles Times and were intended to bolster the GMD. The country's defense against a massive missile strike by Russia or China still depends on deterrence. The Cold War notion that neither nuclear power would attack the U.S. for fear of a devastating response. The GMD is intended to protect against a limited attack by a less imposing adversary such as North Korea or Iran, by destroying enemy warheads in flight, a supreme technological challenge. Look, surely if NASA can launch a damn satellite and land it on a comet, the Missile Defense Agency can find a way to shoot a rocket out of the sky. Rocket interceptors would climb into space from silos at Vandenberg Air Force Base in Santa Barbara County and Fort Greely, Alaska. At the tip of each interceptor is a heat-seeking kill vehicle designed to separate from its boost rocket in space, fly on its own, and crash into an incoming warhead. GMD's roots go back to the Clinton administration. Its development was accelerated after Bush in December 2002. It was ordered the Pentagon to field an initial set of missile defense capabilities to protect U.S. homeland by 2004. Then Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, heavy on the rum, exempted the Missile Defense Agency from standard procurement rules, freeing it to buy new technology without the customary vetting. Rocket interceptors were developed before the kill vehicle and other crucial components had been proved reliable through testing. Despite its shortcomings, GMD became operational in 2004. In the 9 flight tests conducted since then, the system has successfully intercepted a mock enemy missile only 4 times. Less than 50%, folks. Not that good. The GMD's ability to distinguish missiles from decoy debris and other harmless objects, or discrimination as the Missile Defense Agency describes it, has been a persistent concern. So, it can't pick out what it needs to pick out. Powerful, precise radar guidance is key to effective missile defense. Hello, fellas, wake up. That's a fact. Without it, the system cannot be depended on to distinguish real from illusory threats and track enemy missiles into kill vehicles and destroy them. In the event of an attack, radar would have had to provide immediate, accurate hit assessments, confirmation that an enemy missile had been destroyed. Defense experts say that without this confirmation, GMD could rapidly deplete its limited inventory of interceptors, which is 4 at Vandenberg and 26 at Fort Greely. Existing early warning radars based on land in Alaska, California, Britain, and Greenland depend on Navy ships and provide some of the needed capability, but their range is limited by Earth's curvature, and neither they nor orbiting satellites are powerful enough to determine whether approaching objects are benign or threatening. X-band radar is supposed to be powerful enough. Its short wavelength, located on the X-band of the radio wave spectrum, allows for more detailed imagery and thus better discrimination. Missile defense plans drawn during the Clinton administration envisioned as many as 9 land-based X-band radars to complement the early warning radars and provide complete coverage across the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. In 2002, faced with Bush's deadline for deploying GMD by 2004, the MDA officials chose not to add multiple X-band radars on land and opted instead for a single seaborne version. It would be based at a specifically prepared berth in Alaska's Aleutian Islands, an ideal location for detecting a North Korean missile attack, and would be moved around as needed. This was the genesis of the SBX. Boeing's designs called for the huge radar to be seated atop a specifically modified offshore drilling platform. The Missile Defense Agency acquired the platform from a Norwegian company in 2003 and had it towed across the Atlantic to a shipyard in Brownsville, Texas. There it was fitted with a propulsion system, a helicopter landing pad, and living quarters for a crew of about 100. Cranes lifted the radar and its pearl-white protective dome into place. The semi-submersible structure was nearly 400 feet long and 26 stories high, and it weighed 50,000 tons. Obering and his predecessor as director of the Missile Defense Agency told Congress that the SBX would be operational by the end of 2005. Well, we know that proved incorrect. SBX met standards for commercial ships, but agency officials failed to take into account the Coast Guard's stricter standards for vessels destined for the kind of hazardous conditions found in the Aleutians. Basically, it couldn't handle it. To meet the requirements, the missile agency had to spend tens of millions of dollars to fortify the SBX against the sustained 30-foot swells and fierce gales common at its intended home port in Adak, Alaska, known as the birthplace of the winds. That work, completed by Boeing in September of 2007, included installing 8 75-ton anchors embedded in the ocean floor at Adak. Missile Defense Agencies spoke glowingly of the SBX's technical capabilities, saying it's the most powerful radar of its kind in the world, and it'll provide the GMD system a highly advanced detection and discrimination capability. Agency news releases touted SBX's ability to perform critical hit assessment functions, informing U.S. commanders instantly whether rocket interceptors had taken out incoming missiles. At a Senate hearing in April of 2007, General Obering was asked about the GMD system ability to distinguish enemy missiles from decoys. He replied that the SBX would help give the U.S. a tremendous leg up in this regard. To emphasize his point, Obering testified repeatedly that SBX could see a 3-inch wide object from across the continent. If we place it in Chesapeake Bay, we could actually discriminate and track a baseball-sized object over San Francisco, he told the Senate subcommittee. Yet because of Earth's curvature, SBX would not be able to see a baseball at such a distance, which is about 2,500 miles from Chesapeake to San Fran, if you were wondering, unless the ball was 870 or more miles above San Francisco. This is about 200 miles higher than the expected maximum altitude of a long-range missile headed for the U.S. So, in layman's terms, they lied to give the contracts out and spend the money. Now, were there some good things developed in the technology along the way? I'm sure there were. But is it worth $10 billion when we haven't seen the first damn thing that's helping our troops at home or abroad? I don't know. I don't think so. Obering said in an interview that his remarks to Congress were intended not to mislead, but rather to provide a good layman's view of the range of the radar. He added, the range of that radar is farther than anything else we had. Yeah. SBX's powers of magnification belied a fundamental shortcoming. The radar's field of vision is extremely narrow, 25 degrees narrow, compared to 90 to 120 degrees for conventional radars. Experts liken SBX to a soda straw and say that finding a sequence of approaching missiles with it would be impractical and nearly impossible. It is an extremely powerful soda straw, but that's not what we needed, said Harvey Lynch, a physicist who served on the National Academy of Sciences. In the event of an attack, land-based early warning radars could, in theory, identify a specific point in the sky for SBX to focus on. But aiming and re-aiming the giant radar's beam is a cumbersome manual exercise. In combat conditions, the SBX couldn't be relied on to adjust quickly enough to track a stream of separate missiles. SBX's limitations make it irrelevant to ballistic missile defense, said physicist David Barton. And, you know, this is a guy who took part in the National Academy review that has advised the U.S. intelligence agencies. This guy actually works for the company that was making this thing. And he says it's irrelevant to what they were trying to achieve. Wherever that beam can be pointed, it can cover whatever is within it, Barton said. But obviously that isn't going to cover the whole Pacific for a stream of attacking missiles that are separated by many minutes. Even if there are only 4 missiles, an adversary could separate them, and it would render the SBX ineffective. Now, there was a 5-year span where the missile agency director from 1999 to 2004 defended the decision to develop SBX, saying it was 4 or 5 times less expensive than installing land-based X-band radars. Another important consideration, supposedly, they said in an interview, was that the seaborne radar could be made operational quickly compared with the time it would take to build an X-band installation in Alaska or negotiate with foreign governments for other sites on land. And General Kaddish said, SBX seemed to provide the basis for detection and discrimination that we were lacking. However, found that the missile agency unnecessarily compromised the performance of GMD by failing to make greater use of X-band radars on land. The panel's 2012 report said the Homeland Defense System's discrimination problem must be addressed far more seriously. A panel of the Pentagon's Defense Science Board, after a two-year review, reached a similar conclusion. The importance of achieving reliable mid-course discrimination cannot be overemphasized. To address this vulnerability, the U.S. had installed one land-based X-band radar in Japan in 2006. A second was added in 2014. The two radars are well positioned to detect launches from North Korea, yet both would lose track of U.S.-bound missiles after about 930 miles because of the Earth's curvature. One of SBX's intended functions was to participate in tests of the GMD system. A mock enemy missile would be launched over the Pacific, and SBX would track the target and guide rocket interceptors. The radar's performance in those exercises has, quote-unquote, fallen short. So our Pentagon basically invested in these projects because of the recommendations of the directors of the Missile Defense Agency, an arm of the Pentagon, and spent $10 billion with four companies who make heavy political contributions, especially to employees in the districts in which they operate facilities. Now, folks, companies donating money to politicians is not anything new. I would like to see companies banned from doing that. We're about to have a presidential election in another year plus. 2016 is right around the corner. The estimates are already in that the spending to become president is going to top $2.5 billion. This is for a job that will net you $2 million over the 4-year term. People need to start evaluating what's best for Americans and what's best for America in our spending, in our government's spending, and in who we send to represent us in the government. There is a saying that my grandfather used to say, that common sense is only common to those of us who have it. As a boy, I never understood that. When my dad passed away, I still didn't fully understand that. But now, almost 20 years later, after my dad's passing, I really understand it. Folks, our nation's at a critical turning point. We're turning away from Obama. He has no choice but to go away. We've got another year and a half. We have a chance to right the ship. We're not flushed yet. We're in the bowl, but we're not flushed just yet. So as I wrap this up tonight and make way for everybody's favorite unapologetic bunny, I just want to urge you to use common sense in the way you think politically, in the way you think economically, and apply common sense to every part of your life. Because, like my grandfather said, it's only common to those of us who have it. And those of us who have it can't do all the thinking for everybody. Folks, I'm the Grouch, and I'm getting ready to bail, make room for the bunny. You guys have a great night, and after Bunny, stay tuned for According to Me. And I will catch you back next Wednesday on K98talk.com at the same time. Thanks for being here. Love you, mean it. Good night.
Oh, but ain't that America? For you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
Hey everybody, this is Jason, host of According to Me. I'd like to invite you to check out my show. It's a two-hour show that lasts 60 minutes. Listen, I hate to interrupt. One thing I can do is read off a script. Just say, let me clear a lot. It works. President Obama, I can handle it. It's a radio poet. I'm not green. I've done this before. Did someone say green? Now, listen. I'm just trying to record a radio promo. Do you mind? Do you say good things about me on the show? No, not at all. But if it makes you feel any better, I rip on Republicans just as much. Radio frequencies give off very high levels of radiation. Look, my show is on the internet, which you invented. Can I just do my promo? I got a pen. I can veto that, you know. I know you got a pen. It's not a law. It's a radio promo. Listen. Just listen to my show. Barack Obama and Al Gore hate it, so you're going to love it. Here's an executive order.
Not on purpose, I promise.
He doesn't like it. He's racist.
They're already actually starting to call in.
That's it. I'm done. It's According to Me, Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on K98 Talk.
For like the first 3 or 4 minutes because I'm going to do my own thing. So I'll give you some time to put people in queue. This should be interesting.
We will never fully understand
so
what we've
at this
asked
point,
of
I
our
already have
military
one on
service
hold.
members.
I'm going to
or
get
their
some
families,
information from her
asking
while you're
them to
doing
put
your little
themselves in
spiel,
harm's way,
and that way I
to
can let you
endure it
know.
all. But
when
we
she's
do
gonna come
understand
over.
that it's
And-
our
just here in
turn,
this
our
window,
duty
and
to keep them secure
Yep.
for the rest of their
Right here,
lives.
In
Wounded
your
Warrior
high
Project
maintenance area,
long-term
yes, ma'am.
support programs help our most
'cause I'm not
severely
used to
ill or
being able
injured
to talk
veterans
with
live
information.
independently, at no cost for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
One shot, baby, there you go again. 2 shots, and I think you know again. 3 shots come, you might find your daddy gone. 1 shot, baby, there you go again. 2 shots, and I think you know again. 3 shots come, you might.
Unapologetically Bunny. I am your host, the Bunny, on a new mic. Here is a god. You know,
Okay,
I gotta
so now
tell
that I
you,
have
when the
that
mic
done, sorry
dies
about that.
right before you get on
A
the
little
air,
harder than I thought to try
it
to
is
run all this
not
by
a
myself.
good thing.
Okay,
It is
so
not a
who
good
am I
thing at all. But
speaking
we
with
are
right
here live tonight, and I am doing this completely without a script. I feel a little bit like I'm on the tightrope and I don't have a net. But I thought, you know, it's been a long
Okay, do you have
time
any
since we've
particular
done a
topic you
show
wanna
where we
talk
bring in
about,
callers. And so since it's tax day, what a good day to talk to people live on the air. It's been like a year since I did this. I used to do this all the time on other stations and during the other shows, and it was a lot of fun.
Just want to give her a heads up. So you said you were Destiny?
There was actually one time when we had a lefty show call in, and there were 3 guys on that show, and they decided that they were going to call me and get in my space, and they didn't realize I had a mute button. And I had all kinds of fun things to deal with them on the mute button. And so we killed them on the show. And then we had a funeral for them the next week. And they called during the funeral, too. That kind of pissed them off that we buried them. But that's what we do here. We bury people. Because it's funny. And we mock people who don't like us. Because we're conservatives and we're evil.
Give me just a second.
Or
You'll
something
hear a
like
little
that,
bit of noise
right?
while I'm working here. And then you should actually start being able to hear the show.
So what I'm going to do is I have... Rick is being good enough to actually sit back and take your calls as they come through, and then I will talk to you one at a time. Bear with me. I will get to as many of you as I can. And then, hey, Rick, people are saying you need to mute yourself. They can hear you talking in the chat room. So, hey, there we go. Okay, no, I'm looking down, and I've got Destiny on the line from California. Destiny, are you there? Can we patch her through? I don't think she's there. I'm not sure I'm here. Can you guys hear me in the chat? Oh, I hear something. I hear something moving. Okay, well, you know what? We're going to just keep talking until we can patch her through. Destiny, I know you're on the line. Please stay put. It was Tiffany. I see you in the chat. To tell you the truth, when we were talking about doing this originally, I figured that what I would do is I'd talk about Hillary Clinton if nobody called, because I can bitch about Hillary for an hour. But I have Destiny. Destiny, are you there?
Yeah, hi. How you doing?
I'm good, Destiny. How are you?
Well, I saw you on Twitter, and you announced your show, and I've seen it, come up in a few times, and so I thought this time I would call in and see what you talk about.
Well, I'm really glad you called. Now, you're calling from California?
Yep, Los Angeles, California.
Los Angeles, California. And you say you're on Twitter. What is your handle on Twitter?
Destiny and Bruce.
Destiny and Bruce. Okay, now, is it just Destiny, or is Bruce with you as well?
It says Destiny and Bruce. But you want to know for both here? Yeah. Bruce, say hi.
Hi, Bruce. Good to hear you, too.
Yeah.
So, basically what this is we're doing a town hall. The president did one today where he took questions about all kinds of stuff. And not that I'm as influential or boring as the president, but I thought it'd be fun to do something kind of like a town hall. Is there something specific you want to talk about, or did you just call because it was fun to call?
Well, I do want to ask people if they know about the overpasses and the protests that we've been doing out on the streets. Has anybody passed them, seen them, know about them? We've been out there for years now. Started in San Diego, California, on an overpass close to Legoland, Carlsbad, off the 405. And got impeach Obama and all kinds of signs. And we're just wondering, people always say, there's nothing I can do. I don't know what to do. And then get on a street corner with a sign. It only takes one person or two, one to take a picture of you.
I'm very familiar with, I know there's several groups doing different things on the overpasses. I know in Wisconsin they did a ton of it during the recall for Walker. What is your message that you're putting on your overpasses?
Well, it's impeach Obama. That's what our message is. Because people have to know that the guy is really, really bad, enough to where a lot of people go out there and say he has to be impeached. If there's not a lot of people standing on a corner with the same information, it looks like we're loony. It looks like, hey, got one rogue person, a couple rogue people. But if you go onto a website, she's on Facebook too. It's called Coalition to Impeach Obama. I don't know if you know the new station. It's called One America News. We've been on there. I've been on there. It's Graham Ledger on his show. I think it's 5 o'clock Pacific time. And And so at 5 o'clock, Graham Ledger comes on and he does an hour show and he throws in the overpass people. And it's every first Saturday of every month. And if you go on to Coalition to Impeach Obama, you'll see tons of people all over the United States. And some overpasses and some street corners have a lot of people.
You know, it's interesting that you bring it up because a lot of people do feel like there's things they can't do. I had Sabo on my show a long time ago, and Sabo is a street artist. You probably be in California, in the Los Angeles area. You may be familiar with him. But what he said and what he encouraged people to do is get out into their communities and make some noise, whether it's making a poster of Ted Cruz with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth or if it's doing something on the overpass. I think you bring up a really smart point in that we have the ability to get out there and make a difference even when we don't think we do.
Well, it feels good, you know, if you find I was on an overpass in Hollywood on Highland Avenue. That was not a good area to be in. A lot of flip off, a lot of go to hell, a lot of angry faces with fists, you know. If you get into a friendlier area, usually it's in Orange County, like San Diego, for example, you get a lot of positive honks and waves, and you feel good. You feel like, okay, I'm out here with my people where they know what I know. And then you get to meet other people, and you become friends with them.
You know, I think that's really a great point in that, you know, as we get closer to the election next year and as our candidates start announcing and as their candidates start announcing, how important it is that we work together to show some kind of unity. We don't always have to agree on every point, because if we did agree on every point, we wouldn't be conservatives, we'd be liberals because, you know, the whole groupthink thing. But I think when we work together and do great things, we can really make a difference. I'm in a very red state. I'm in Wyoming, and nobody flips me off when I say impeach Obama here. California, you are really putting yourself out there. That says a lot about what you guys are doing. And you've been doing it how long?
Well, I have to tell you, if you get a couple people out there, get a picture of yourself, you send it to Roger Ogden at Coalition to Impeach Obama. He'll put you up on the site, and he sends them all to Graham Ledger, that's his name, Graham Ledger at One American News, and he sometimes will pick you and put you up on the show, you know, a picture of you while he talks about the Impeach Obama movement. You know, and I think that more people that get out there and do that in different places, then you could see that it's all, it's a lot of people, you know, it's all over the United States is what I was going to say. And that's what we really need to show. Even if it's one person holding up one sign, you know, saying impeach Obama. That's it.
And I think it says a lot that you guys are willing to even, you know, get out there and get flipped off and deal with people who don't want to look at you just to get your message out there. So I think that's really great. You know, Destiny, I'm so glad you called in. Tell Bruce I said hi as well. And I'm going to move on unless you have something else you wanted to add.
Okay, thank you so much. Good luck on your show. And if we could keep listening, that would be great.
Oh, absolutely. We'd love for you to listen. You can listen on K98talk.com, and there's a chat room for you to hang out if you want to. Everybody, there's a bunch of people in the chat. Go hang out with them. There's some crazy people in the chat, but they're worth talking to. I'm so glad you called in from California. It was good talking to you.
Okay, good luck, honey.
Thanks. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye now.
And you know what? What's interesting is a long time ago, I did bring on a different group who did the overpass piece, and they were doing the impeach Obama. They did a really big one out in Wisconsin when Governor Walker was being recalled. He actually beat the Democrats 3 times in 4 years because of that recall. But it's interesting that she brings that up, because I think a lot of what's happening is we're getting so focused on Hillary and we're getting focused on all these other pieces going on that the impeach Obama movement really is kind of a backbone for a lot of what is being said in conservative circles. And I think that's really exciting. And I love that they're doing it in California. That's what was so fun about Wisconsin. Wisconsin is like this blue state with this red uprising happening. And so they were out there on these overpasses being threatened and being attacked by, you know, the tolerant left. And so to hear about that from California is really cool. So I'm glad Destiny called in. The number to call in, folks, is 408-681-8255. If you're a fan or a foe, I want to hear from you tonight. This is the one chance you have, guys, to chit-chat with the Rabbit live. So I'll be taking your calls. And right now what we're going to do is I want to talk a little bit about now. I did put some time aside just for myself. I know it's all about me, but I want to talk a little bit about Hillary Clinton. I did actually invite Hillary to come talk tonight. I gave her the number, that 408-681-8255 number. And gee, you know what? She didn't take me up on it. But gotta talk about her just a little bit. And the whole Rubio thing, because if I don't talk about them a little bit, I'll feel like I didn't do my job this week. You know, Hillary, we all knew she was going to announce, guys. Nobody's surprised that she announced. Nobody went, oh, I never thought she'd want to run for president again. There was no shock in what she did. And, you know, all day, was it Sunday? Yeah, must have been Sunday, because I was really wondering why she would announce on a Sunday. But all day we're waiting for this announcement. I know a lot of us were waiting because we wanted to make fun of her, but we were waiting for the announcement. And she finally comes out, and what I notice about her, besides the hilarious logo that I know we all made fun of for hours and hours and days, actually even, was she looked like this grandma. Did anybody else notice how puffy and wrinkly and old she's letting herself look? Now, you know, when she tried this must have been 9 years ago now? When she first decided she was going to run for president, do you guys remember how slick she was, how stylized she was? She looked like a powerhouse. She was way younger looking. And I look back at the photos of her during the primary with Obama, and I look at the photos of her now. Wow, she's gone from Hillary Clinton ball-busting politician to grandma who wants to be president. Have you guys noticed this looking at her? And it might just be that the evil in her soul is finally sucking her vitality out of her, and she's, you know, going to become what she really is. Or someone has told her that the granny thing is going to work for her this time. That being the powerful woman who looks like she's going to take control is not going to get her elected. That, in fact, she needs to be the puffy grandma type to get elected. And I tell you what, I don't believe it one bit. And it's really funny to hear her talk about, you know, she's going on the road because, you know, that's so original. She's going on the road to see everyday Americans because everyday Americans, she wants to be your champion. Yeah, your champion. That's a funny word for someone like her, isn't it? Someone who doesn't answer the phone at 3 a.m. is no damn champion, but she wants to be your champion. And she looks like grandma. And she's in the heartland. She's in Iowa. You know, they're talking about how they have all these photo ops. They're actually not really happening, but they're bringing in people to happen. Some of the jokes out there about her staring at people and sucking their souls to her eyes. I think one of them was from Bill O'Keefe. He said that she was staring away someone's fertility. You know, I don't see how she can really be a front runner for them. And it's interesting because her supporters, wow, they are really thin-skinned compared to the Obama supporters. And I'm not trying to be nice to the trolls, but I'm telling you what, some of these Obama people, they are fearless. They are dastardly. They don't even care. You cannot hurt their feelings. The Hillary people, boy, it takes nothing. And the problem with the Hillary people is they're young women. Most of them are young women who think you should vote for Hillary if you're a woman just because you're a woman. And it's really hard to have those discussions with those women, those young girls who seem to think Hillary is going to be president. Yeah, it's sad. You know, I'm going to take a short break. And when I come back, we're going to take more calls from the hotline at 408-681-8255. I will be right back after this break. Stay put.
Oh, it ain't that America, you and me. Ain't that America, something to see, baby. Ain't that America, home of the free, yeah.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
And we're back from break. We're actually working on some technical things, guys. It sounds like we are having issues with the phone number. We're having issues taking several calls at once. And so give us just a minute, folks, of you who have been trying to call in. I apologize for the delay. We've got to take one at a time. So we're going to try that and see how it works out. I see you in the chat saying it's not working. Tell him to keep trying, he says. Okay, keep trying. The number is good. Just too many of you are trying to call at once, which is wonderful. Thank you for trying to call all at once. But we can't take you all at once. Damn technical difficulties. I tell you what. Because if you could figure out how to take conferencing calls in all at once, we could all hang out together. Wouldn't that be something else? Yeah. So we're going to try and take you guys one at a time. If we can't get you in, you'll just have to listen to me blather on for a little bit until we figure it out. But that's the good thing about being a woman, is because even if I don't have anything to say, I can talk for 45 minutes because that's what we do. We were talking a little bit about Hillary. And wait, hold on. Grouch, are you on the line?
I'm with you.
What are you doing there, Grouch?
Well, I had a message. I'm looking at the chat room, and I see Daniel stirring up some stuff about Bill Clinton. And I just wanted to let everybody know that I still did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stop. You cannot do Bill Clinton on my phone line. No. Grouch, did you realize that you've been sitting on this line with me the entire time?
Well, yeah, I knew I was. Yeah.
Well, what do you want to talk about? I had no idea. The reason people are getting booted is I've kept you on the line and I didn't know you were there. I'm telling you what. It is excitement here on the Bunny Show, Grouch. What should we talk about?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, let's talk about Hillary because I got problems with her too. I know you couldn't stay for my show, but
unknown caller. To add this caller to your current call,
her whole
press 5.
candidacy is
To
just
accept,
so
press 1.
deflating.
To send a voicemail,
I mean, the
press
only
2.
thing that she's accomplished in her life was being graced with the right chromosomes to be a woman that could make her possibly be the first female president.
It's her turn.
And that's her only achievement in this world.
It's her turn. Don't you know that? The woman has a vagina, so it's her turn. That is the rule of Hillary.
Well, yeah. I mean, she definitely feels owed. There's no doubt about that. Entitled, owed, whatever you want to call it. But that's her. And it's just sickening because
if you
she
ask
has
any
nothing
Hillary supporter,
of a record.
here's how you shut them down. You say, why are you voting for her? Well, it's her turn. But what of her policies do you support? Well, it's her turn and she's brilliant. I don't care if she's smart. Why are you voting for her?
Okay. I sent the caller to voicemail. Goodbye.
Do you hear the woman talking? Please tell me you hear her. Please tell me I'm not hearing voices. It's been one of those days, man. Tell me you're not hearing voices. Okay. So Hillary, how do we shut it down?
How do we shut it down? We approach this with a solid candidate that's willing to put Americans first and set their personal agendas aside, and give people not. I don't want to say hope, but they need to be able to see a road that they can travel down and know that it's a good road. They don't need to be promised something blindly like the 55 million idiots that voted for Obama did.
Well, the problem is certain words have been ruined forever. So you can't say you give people hope because hope goes into the whole feeling that is that fancy marketing campaign. You take away change because you can't say that. You can't say fair. I hate the word deserve now. Thank you, equal pay day. That damn word. I feel like we've lost so many words because they are ruining them.
And, we can also mock her campaign logo too, the Preparation H logo.
I haven't heard that one yet. Preparation H.
Preparation H 2016, baby.
Well, Grouch, I have
available in suppository form.
No, I don't want to think about her suppositories, dude. I haven't had enough to drink for that. Grouch, I got someone else on the line. I'm going to need you to hang up so I can take another call.
I'm going to go away. Have a great show.
Away,
I'm going to grab some dinner and tune right back in.
That was fun. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Sam. Bye.
Bye. Hello, caller. Are you there? We don't know who
hello,
you are
Bunny.
because we're having technical difficulties bringing you in. So we're going to fly on the blind and just take your call. Who is this?
Well, is this me you're talking to?
I think it's me. Who's me? Depends on who me is.
Well, me.
Where me is
You'll
calling from.
know me as Harry the Tech 76 on Twitter.
Hey, how are you?
It's great to hear your voice.
It is great to hear your voice, my friend. So are you calling with any specific topic tonight, or did you just want to see if we could break all the call-ins coming in?
Well, I figured I'd play it by ear, wing it as it was. I did happen to come in the middle of your discussion regarding Hillary, and I guess I just want to interject my 2 cents. I'm a relative newcomer to the political game, as it were, as very much as new as I am to Twitter.
Run away while you still can, Harry. Run away.
Oh, boy, I'm a sucker for punishment. I'm a 911 paramedic, as you know, and I'm still swinging at that as well. One thing I have discovered, having recently gotten involved in this, is I think as a country we're starting to wake up again. We've gotten a little complacent with ourselves, and it's kind of fallen into this rut, and I'm starting to see more and more outrage, not just towards the Democratic Party in general, but towards the liberal policies, but just where we suddenly found ourselves. And as far as shutting down Hillary, I'm not sure that it needs a whole lot of help. I think it's only got a time for it collapses under its own weight.
Right. Well, she doesn't seem to have much to really run on. And I think she's starting behind the 8 ball, to be cliche, but everything that you actually can talk about with Hillary is bad shit. It's not like you're like,
unknown caller. To add this caller to your current call, press 5. To
There's a
accept,
woman
press
who'll talk
1.
every
To
once
send
in
a
a while. Just
voicemail,
ignore
press
her,
2.
Harry. She's an annoying bitch.
I'm
But
sorry.
I have no
I
idea
didn't
what just
catch
happened.
that. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that.
Oh, the woman is talking. But, the problem with Hillary is she's never really done anything positive for this country. If you really think about who she is, can you name one thing she has done that we're better off that she did it? Uh-oh. Did we lose Harry? Uh-oh, I think we lost Harry. Is someone there?
Hey, hang on, Bunny.
Okay, well, I'll just hang on here. I can talk to myself and pretend Harry is on the other end of the line. That was Harry. He's an EMT, guys. He is new to politics, apparently.
Are you there?
I think he ran away.
Okay, some reason we're having some difficulty getting more than one caller in at a time. I've noticed you've been trying repeatedly, so give me a second. Let me get you conferenced over there.
If you can hear Rick, we're having problem conferencing in too many of you at once. So please bear with us. We're having technical difficulties here on Unapologetically Bunny. Hell, it wouldn't be my show if things were going completely well. I'd be completely confused. We did talk a little bit about, as we wait for the next caller who's trying to get through. Thank you, caller, for doing that. We actually normally do our top 10 douchebags of the week at this time. And I didn't take an official list this week because I wanted to spend time talking to you guys. That being said, since we were having technical difficulties with phone calls, we're going to play the top 10 douchebags by ear. Yeah, I think that will work really well because it's easy to talk about people who piss us off, and there's plenty of them out there who are douchebags. Normally, I take the nominations from you guys, but I think this week we'll just play it by ear with the douchebags, and we'll take them one at a time until we get the callers patched through. So this will be Bunny's top 10 douchebags. So it's a little more personal to me this week because, it's all about me. The top 10 douchebags for me, I have to talk about Hillary. And of course, Hillary, I guess we can call her number 10 because she is a douchebag. And we were talking about Hillary with Harry and the things that Hillary has done that are bad. What's fascinating to me was that there was a tag out there, and the tag was, why I'm not voting for Hillary. And I took the tag because I'm that way. And what I did with the tag is I said, because I'm a wife, because I'm a mom, because I'm a woman, because I'm American, that's why I'm not voting for Hillary. This enraged a lot of women. It did not enrage any men, believe it or not, although a lot of men were calling me a man this week, but we'll get to that later. Women were not pleased with me by going that route. Women felt that I was being disrespectful to Hillary. which I find ironic considering how disrespectful she has been to the country. So Hillary Clinton, in your new campaign, welcome to the top 10 douchebags of the week at number 10. At number 9 are feminist men. Feminist men, guys. You know, I think they're worse than feminists. And that says a lot because feminists suck. And, you know, there are good feminists. Please don't get in my grill about women. Because, you know, traditional feminists really are about equality. They really are about women being in the right place in society and having everything that they need. And we're there in America, right? Women really have it great in our country. I'm talking about the hyenas who want to blame men for everything wrong on the planet. So they suck. You know who sucks more are feminist men. And they're douchebags at number 9. Feminist men this week have spent a lot of time telling me that they think I'm a man because the whole equal pay thing came out. I don't know if you guys saw it was Equal Pay Day. I don't know where the hell they come up with these holidays or whatever, but it was Equal Pay Day. And so all these women were out there shaking their bra straps at the world saying, we deserve equal pay. Now, we all know the equal pay thing is bullshit and a myth. We all know it doesn't really exist. But this whole tag was about, hey, women are not being paid. You know, it's like an employer looks at someone and says, okay, you're a chick, so I'm going to pay you less, right? This is the whole notion behind equal pay. That there's some evil, rich, white guy, and it has to be an evil, rich, white guy because that's their agenda. He's out there saying, don't pay women the same because they're women, we'll pay them less. So supposedly this exists, right? I'm out there saying this is bullshit because that's who I am. I'm out there saying this is ridiculous that women have to believe that they're getting paid less because they have boobs. All of these feminist men got up in my space. One guy's like, there's no way you're a woman talking that way about wanting to be oppressed. And I'm like, how am I being oppressed by saying I don't believe this exists? Another one was like, you stupid bitch, men are oppressing you. And I'm like, you're a dude. What did you just say? And then, of course, my favorite was calling me a parody because, you know, only a parody woman would say the things I'm saying. So supposedly I'm some dude behind the account, right? I thought about inviting some of my Politainment friends on, you know, Clay or Paul or Daniel, to come on and be me, but be a guy, just so I could say, okay, you guys were right, I'm a dude. I don't do a man's voice very well either. I'm a little too feminine, so it didn't work out for me. But you guys, you feminist men, at number 9, you are douchebags. Oh, I think we have someone on the line. Is somebody there? Did we hang him up? Yes. Hi, yes.
Hello?
Who's this? Hello?
Hey, Bunny.
Hey.
It's Flickery Trigger.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine as frogs here. How are you?
You know, I'm winging it, my friend. So I'm doing actually pretty good considering I can just talk about whatever I want for the whole hour, unless you people can get through. It's working out really good. So what are you up to?
Oh, nothing, about 5'6". Out here in the shop making some Kydex holsters, but
what are you making?
Holsters, pistol holsters.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you're 5'6"?
5'6" and 3/4. Don't forget the 3/4.
The 3/4 matters. I'm only giving you shit because all day today people are like, well, Bunny, I thought you were short. And I'm like, I'm freaking Amazon. There's nothing short about me. So I'm giving you flack for that. Do you have an opinion on Hillary Clinton? Do you have something to say about my favorite woman?
And you know what? Hillary Clinton has, I call her Killary. She has a long and illustrious career.
Call from unknown caller. To add this caller to your current call, press 5. To accept, press 1. To send the voicemail, press 2.
There you go.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2. Okay, I sent the caller to voicemail. Goodbye.
Hello.
You're still there. We didn't lose you. Yay. Last time
no.
She came in and she hung up.
I'm hard to get rid of.
Good. So go ahead. Tell me about Killary.
Okay, so let's see. The first boondoggle that she had was in during the Watergate investigation. She got fired for doing the same crap that she's doing now.
Yeah. Well, she's never changed. And nobody holds her accountable. They don't hold her accountable. It's like, for whatever reason, our party, you can fart wrong in our party and we will crucify you. Their party, they protect them. She could kick a puppy on television and she'd still get away with that shit.
Yeah, I know. How many people have to die around her before somebody starts questioning maybe it's her, you know?
But the people who question her, they go away. They don't exist anymore. There are people just kind of disappearing. Have you noticed? Like that $6 billion that just kind of disappeared, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's no consequences. When you're a Democrat, there are no consequences. You can be a piece of shit and still run for office as a Democrat. That is just how it goes with them.
You know, but I still have a hard time getting my head wrapped around how even a Democrat could support someone like that. I mean, that woman is just pure evil.
Oh, she's Satan. I mean, and it's funny because a lot of liberals have called me Satan. They think, I'm the devil, whatever. I'm also a dude. But no, I think she is really evil. And that's why I was talking about the granny thing. It's really spooky because they're trying to make her sweet and demure, and she's just evil. You can see it, right?
Yeah, it is. I firmly believe that she was the snake in the Garden of Eden. I mean, that's a theory. I'll have to prove it someday, but...
she's awfully old. It's possible, dude. She was hanging around in the garden. She decided to run in politics. She got bored. That was also another tag there. She is getting destroyed in social media. I don't understand why Democrats are even trying to run her. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't understand why she decided to launch her campaign in social media.
Well, she's trying to be hip, dude. She's trying to connect, man, because that's how it works now. Oh, that reminds me, and this is a totally different subject, but I gotta ask you. Okay, Rubio announced on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Did you see he has a Team Marco Twitter thing? Have you looked at their feed? Oh my God.
Oh, is it bad?
This is the feed. Oh my God. OMG, guys. 1,000 follows in 5 minutes. Sweet. That is how they're tweeting as a campaign account. Are you kidding me?
Oh, man.
It's, dog, thanks for following Team Marco. It's so bad.
Team Marco. Man, and I thought I was lame.
No, you're not. That's lame. And it's fine. I get it. They need to be on social media. They need to be out there connecting with us that way. But we need the young people. I understand, but they're not fucking stupid. Don't talk to them like they're fucking stupid. It drives me nuts.
Exactly.
Hey, dog.
They need to quit following the stereotype.
It's so bad. It's so bad. We're in so much trouble. Although I will tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Watching Rand speak last week, it's like he said all the things I wanted him to say. What are your thoughts on Rand?
I don't like his foreign policy.
He mentioned, he did say that his foreign policy is evolving. No, I don't know if that means anything.
Okay. So's the Democrats.
Okay, now I need to do this. Where do people find you? Now, you're out on social media, and I know you do your own YouTube thing. Where do they find you?
Okay, and social media, it's at Slickery Trigger, and on YouTube, it is Liberty Road Training or Liberty Road Defensive Pistol Training. Nice. Punch in one of those, DPT, Liberty Road DPT. You'll find me.
You'll find you, and then you're out, of course, on Twitter causing trouble, and that's also a good thing. I can only take one caller at a time, clearly, because the evil woman comes on. So I'm going to try and cut you off. I'm not trying to be rude. If I don't do that, I'm not going to be able to take anybody else on. So, my friend, I'm so glad you got through. I'm so glad the evil woman didn't hang you up, and I will talk to you soon in social media.
Okay. Take it easy, Bunny.
I will. You take care.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have called that woman an evil bitch, but every time I talk to someone else tries to call in and she starts talking to them like, it's her show. Who does she think she is, right? Right? It's a bunny show. So we can only take one call at a time. So we're going to work on it that way. And in the meantime, before one of you tries to call in again, I'm going to go ahead and go on with my top 10 douchebags. The line is open now. So if you want to get in, now's the time. We were at number 9 with douchebag feminist men. At number 8, let's see, who should we put there this week? I'm going to put Team Marco at number 8 because They are talking to people like they're absolute idiots. I understand this, and we were talking about this a little bit. I understand that we need to be able to connect to young people. I understand that the conservative message is a little boring, and it's no fun to talk about personal responsibility. I mean, especially when you're, a college kid. You don't want to hear about, well, you need to get a job and pay your way, dummy. You don't want to hear that. But we don't need to talk down to them either. The notion of, yo, sweet, and all these little happy faces and flags and crap, all these emojis. You're running a professional campaign, folks. Act like it. Please. And Marco isn't even up on my, he's like the bottom of my pool at this point. I would probably support him if he won the nod. I'll give you that. I would support him over Jab any day. But that campaign team has got to get its shit together. They cannot be talking to people like that. They cannot be shaking their little jazz fingers, because that's not what conservatives are going to relate to. Even young conservatives are not going to relate to that. So at number 8, we'll put Team Marco. At numbers, someone's trying to call in. I hear it, and I don't think the woman's hanging them up. Is somebody there?
Hello, it's Harry again.
Harry, you got the call back. I'm sorry that evil woman hung up on you.
That's okay. I'm a little used to evil women in my life.
I think it goes with the whole XX chromosome thing. I think that's what we do, is we're naturally just evil. So we were interrupted by the evil woman. We were talking about an evil woman. We were talking about Hillary. I'm actually a little more interested in you talking about, you said you were new to the political field, and that what got you involved?
Well, to be brutally honest, it all basically started with the San Diego shooting, and kind of seeing the following involved in that. I mean, I've always been a Second Amendment rights supporter, but kind of casually. It's always like, well, someday I'll get a gun. That'd be fun to do, blah, 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 blah. I never really gave it much more thought than that until I saw that happen. Now, of course, I'm old enough to remember seeing the Hollywood bank robbery live on TV. I'm old enough to remember the Columbine shooting and thinking, well, those are horrible things.
Right.
It didn't really click until that occurred. And I thought, you know what? If people value their lives so much, why are they defenseless? Why are they cooped up in this area where all it's protecting you is a sign? And I quickly saw the political backlash following that. And I saying, we got to tighten up our laws. We've got to make sure that the guns don't fall into the wrong hands. And here I'm thinking, this guy murdered his mother and stole her guns. There's no law on the books that would have stopped him.
No.
What good are more laws going to do? And I actually saw this as a threat to not only the Second Amendment, but the rights in general. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm a 911 paramedic, and 8 years on the job. And one of the things I've seen firsthand is what happens to defenseless people. One of the very first calls I ran was to an 85-year-old woman who, during a home invasion by 4 men in their 20s, was beaten so bad that both her hips were shattered.
Oh, no.
And left for dead. We found her 4 days later, sitting in a pool of her own urine, which had turned to ammonia and had started eating at her skin.
Oh, no.
And it got me thinking about the elderly, the disabled, the young, the people who don't stand a chance in a physical confrontation. And the rule of nature is the strong prey upon the weak. And a tool, a gun, being unnatural negates this rule. So those things started to click when I saw that legislation being proposed, and I thought, I have to get a gun.
Yeah.
So I went down, purchased a Glock 19. It was intended to be my home defense and my concealed carry. Like an idiot, I figured it like his tattoo would be my first and only. And 8 guns later, that's not the case. Well,
they're kind of like potato chips. You can't have one, man. That's not how it works.
Absolutely. So I just learned as much as I could, not only about the legislation, but the progress all the way back to the Brady Bill, and before that, the testimony of Dr. Susanna Huck. And it just dawned on me more and more that these so-called laws, they do nothing to prevent crime. They only burden the law-abiding. And the more I studied about it, the more I realized not only was the Second Amendment written that way, but the entire Constitution was written that way by a series of visionaries who realized, by and large, the average person can manage his own affairs. He'll mind his business, or he'll mind her business, and leave everyone else well alone. If you get those few people who won't, you equip the majority to keep that in check.
Well, you know, I think, and you bring up a good point about, because the founding fathers were visionaries, and they were reacting to an overreaching giant government that wanted to tell them how to worship, how to live. They wanted to take their money, and they thought, this is bullshit, is what basically happened. You know, they fought because they were being taxed too high on tea. You know, so, I mean, you think about who those people were. The Constitution is a beautiful document. It is all about being responsible and being free. And what's interesting is when you talk to the left about being free, they're always like negative Nellies. Well, if you let this happen, bad shit's going to happen. And I'm always like, freedom is scary, but it's worth it, right?
Exactly.
And they figured that out.
Well, a ship is safest in port. But that's not what it's built for.
I love that. Were you the one who sent that to me? Because someone was
sending
that. Was that you?
I think it's so, yes. I mean, I think it was GOP Mommy that said, follow at your own risk.
Ah, that's right. Good old Jalen. She had to have it in there too, didn't she? Yeah, you know, it's a really good point. And I love the fact well, I don't love the fact that you reacted to a horrible situation that you had to go through. I feel horrible for that woman. But at the same time, you understand that there is a responsibility to protect yourself. It's not, you know, it's not really, oh, you should. It's really your responsibility. It's not even about,
exactly.
You know, it's something you're supposed to do. That is what they envisioned.
My life is my responsibility, no one else's. I owe no one anything, and no one owes me anything. I have 2 working arms, 2 working legs, and a working brain.
Well,
following that, I can make everything else fall into place.
Don't you understand?
I'm not so sure about the brain part.
Is supposed to take care of everything you need and do everything for you. Come on, that's not the popular thing right now.
Well, that's the direction we've been going, continuously voting left. That we have this idea that there are people smarter than us who are qualified to tell us how to live.
But they think that, and I think this is something that's indicative of the left, is they have so little faith in human beings at all that they believe they have to tell us what to think, what to do, how to live, because otherwise we'll screw up. I really feel like they're the parents in the pool. I always use this analogy that the conservatives are the dad, and they just kind of toss the kid in the pool and say, you know, swim, swim. The mother's like, oh, the water's cold, and oh, you need your floppies, and oh my God, don't do this, and oh, you ate already, come out of the water. It's a totally different dynamic when you look at conservatives and you look at liberals. The mommy's going to make sure they don't get hurt in the water, and the conservatives like, you know, sink or swim, damn it, let's go.
Yeah, and they seem to plan on it. They seem to say, well, this is going to happen, and we're going to be here to bail you out. And it's the same thing with affordable health care, for instance. And I'll tell you what, being involved in the emergency medicine system, it has really, I don't know if I can say the F word or not, but...
You can say fuck, go ahead.
It has really screwed us up because it just feeds into this degree of entitlement and this idea that, well, there's someone smarter than I am telling me how to live, so I can just go ahead and make whatever stupid decision I want because they're going to bail me out. Now, and I have been accused of being insensitive. I have been accused of not having any degree of empathy, and I can tell you as a paramedic that it is my job to care for my patients. It is not my job to care about them. That is a conscious choice I make on my own. A lot of the things that they inflict upon themselves, diabetes, obesity, heart attack, stroke, and such, it is tragic, yes. But I'm not the one who shoved fast food down their throat and forced them not to exercise for 50 years.
But I also think at the same time, and I will tell you this, and then I have to let you go because I have to try and take one more caller. When I first got out of high school, I thought I was going to do the EMT thing. I decided I was going to be an EMT because I wanted to save people, and I had this, you know, this desire to save people. Then I realized people die. And then I realized young children die and old people die, and I couldn't deal with what you deal with. I wanted to drive the ambulance really fast. I wanted to do all that shit, you know, that you think is so awesome. But then you don't realize that little kids get killed in car accidents, and you don't think about that. And so for me, I couldn't do it. So I have a lot of respect for what you do because I went through the training and I went, no way, I can't do this. So it says a lot about you as a person that you can do that. So I hope you know that.
I greatly appreciate it, and I have a lot of respect for what you do as well.
Well, I just have a big
So
mouth, but
that's
I
that. I'll
appreciate
go ahead
that.
and create your line.
I'm really glad you
What's
called
that?
back, Harry.
I'm glad I was able to get through,
I'll
buddy.
see
It
you
was
out there.
great
I'm
to hear
going
your
to hang
voice,
up, and
and
I'll talk to
keep
you
fighting
soon.
a good
Okay?
fight.
Thanks, Harry. Bye.
All right, take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
I'm so glad Harry called back. You know what? I was going to take breaks, and I'm probably not going to get through the whole top 10 douchebags. I will give a 7 out to Harry Reid. Thank you out in the chat room, Harry Reid at number 7. Harry got all upset this week because people have been saying the mob beat him up. He said conservatives don't like him as a person, and we're like, duh. And it's not just conservatives who don't like Harry as a person. It's all people who don't like Harry because Harry sucks. He's also a boy chaser, but we didn't say that out loud on the show. And I might want to do a disclaimer on this show, Rick, that, my views are not your views. Speaking of my views, not your views. Guys, I'm so bad at this, and Rick has been good enough to remind me. If you get a chance, please go visit us on polititainment.net. There's a little banner up there, and if you like to shop Amazon, guess what? If you click the banner and you go shop Amazon through our site, you put some money in our pockets. Oh my God, I finally did it. They're going to be so excited that I remembered to do that. So I did that. Thank you, Rick, for the reminder. At number 6 on the douchebag list, who else should we put on the list this week while we wait for this next call to come through? I know who I'll put on this list. I'm going to put on the list Michelle Obama because I can. Not for any particular reason, just because it's funny. Actually, I saw a quote of hers. She said something, it was about women's rights or something, and she was talking about, what was it she said? Oh, that women are never paid what they're worth because they're women, or something along that line. It was actually a quote of her saying that, supporting the whole wage gap thing. And the reason they're doing this, guys, the reason they're pulling in the wage gap, the reason they're pulling in women's rights is that they're trying to give Hillary something to run on. This is not about a reality in our country right now. Notice they're not talking about what's going on in the Middle East or about the damn ISIS camp that's 8 miles south of us in Mexico. Did you guys see that shit? Fine. Number 5 is ISIS and their camp across the line in Mexico. Are you kidding me? 8 miles within our border. If W is president, guess what? We go 8 miles over that border and we fry those bastards. We don't go, oh, gee, that's really bad that they're so close to the country. Number 5 is ISIS across the border in Mexico. 8 miles from our border, guys. Think about that for just a minute and how open that border has been. 39,000 young illegal immigrants crossing that border just last week. 39,000 of them. Cheyenne, Wyoming has 59,000 people total. And that's just in the 1 week, guys. That's how open that border is. Number 4 is the border on the douchebag list. Border is wide open. Hello, ISIS. Easy to come in the country, don't you think? 39,000 illegal immigrant children supposedly just did it. So at number 4 is our border. Who am I missing on the douchebag list, guys? At number 3, we'll talk about the IRS. Oh, I've been wanting to do this as well. Number 3 on Top 10 Douchebag, as the bunny improvs it, is the IRS. Today is tax day. Congratulations, America. You just paid your taxes, hopefully. 53% of you paid your taxes. That still really makes me mad.
Hello?
53% of us are paying all of the taxes. Hello? I heard someone say hello. Who's there?
Hey, it's me, Sid.
Sid, how are you? My friend from
Doing
Indiana.
fine. Your favorite sailor from Indiana.
Oh, the Indiana man. How are you, my friend?
Doing fine. What about you?
I'm doing great. And that's just how it has to be. So I'm glad you called because the Indiana thing with the legislation, you were there.
Yeah.
What do you think about what happened with that law?
It got crazy personal over here. You'd be amazed because they really had no idea the hell that came on down on them.
It was nuts.
Because
they were just. I don't understand.
I remember I had people on the Facebook page talking about how that law legalized domestic violence.
What?
Yeah, there's like, it legalized domestic violence, it legalized assault. So I'm like, what the hell?
Where does it say in the law you may beat the shit out of your spouse? Where is that in that law? I didn't see that.
I trust me. I'll probably have to dig deep into the archives, but it was on Facebook. It was right there. It went.
They were putting so much nonsense into that law. I kept asking, where is the whole gay thing in the law, and where does it say only Christians are protected? And people just didn't have the answer for me because it's not in there.
They wrote this law because of the whole Hobby Lobby. And when the Supreme Court says that, private corporations can decide, they can actually use, religious freedom, they basically wrote that. And that's where people try to point out why it was different than the other religious freedom laws. So,
but it doesn't just protect Christians. It doesn't just protect. It protected atheists. It protected Satanists. I mean, it's all about religious freedom. It's not about, we hate gay people, so we're going to write a law. That was so dumb. And the domestic violence thing, that I had not heard that one said. Domestic violence.
Yes. But like I said, but also, they're like, you know how the rest of the country is ready for the elections next year? It's already happening here. Because, for some forsaken reason, we think we got plenty of money to have 4 elections in 1 year.
I can't keep up with Indiana. And it's interesting because I don't remember ever paying attention to you guys before now. No offense. It's kind of like Wyoming. People think we're a different country, so I get it. But I don't ever remember you guys being as relevant as you have been as of recent.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing. For years, I always opined for my state to be known something, and voila. But what some conservatives, they got mad at the legislatures for rewriting the law. What some people didn't understand was that the legislatures in Indiana are part-time. And remember when I gave you that blog that gave them all their addresses where they worked at?
Yep, and they're up and where they work.
And I'm not surprised that because of the heat, their employers kind of lean into their workers who were, representatives to convince them to recheck them, though, because sadly, some of them are legislators, their jobs was on the line.
Well, and that's the problem. You see the religious freedom being taken away from Memories Pizza or from a gay baker or a straight baker or a Christian baker. You see them losing that religious freedom, and then you see the legislators trying to protect them lose the same freedom. And why is that? Because of the victim mafia. And that's what's happening in Indiana. Sid, I have 3 minutes left. I got to cover my last 2 douchebags. Do you have anything else you want to bring up?
Well, nothing much. I'll probably just have to talk to you later then.
I'm really glad you called. It's been too long since we chatted. I really enjoyed hearing your voice again.
All right, same here.
You have a good night. Take care in Indiana. All right,
bye,
Sid.
Bye.
Yeah, I have 3 minutes, and if I don't finish the top 10 douchebags, I'm going to feel like really big crap. Okay, so at number 2 is Vice President Joe Biden. Because, I think Joe's going to put his hat in which will be awesomely great in social media, and we will have such a good time with Joe. But Joe has been out there talking about the wage gap and poor women and poor women's rights and how women need equal rights, blah, 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 even though we all know Biden has been putting his hands all over these women for several years. So Joe Biden, you're a douchebag at number 2. And of course, at number 1, this guy's, we have to do this. We have to mention President Obama as number 1. His town hall, I tried to listen to it today. And while, he was able to take more than one call at once, damn it, his whole thing was about childcare and the importance of equal pay and the importance of childcare. And, it gets really old because he's pandering to the group of people who will support him because they're uninformed and ignorant. 72% of women supported President Obama, even though more of us are unemployed and impoverished than ever before. And he knows that, and Hillary knows that, and Biden knows that, and the Democratic Party knows that they're going to pander to women. They're going to try and make you feel important while they do jack shit to really fix your lives. Pay attention. He's a douchebag at number 1. My goodness, this has been actually really fun for me. I appreciate you guys listening to me go through the crazy woman who keeps cutting me off. I'm going to find her and beat her ass. But thank you for being here for this show. We're going to try and do this again because this has actually been a lot of fun. And working in the improv of the top 10 douchebags, thank you very much. That was a bunny moment. I appreciate you all so much for being here. Please stay put. Next is According to Me with my friend Jason DeWilkins. I will be back here live, same bat channel, same bat time next week. Thank you for being here. Take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni la vie.